And we are live. Hi, everybody, and welcome. This live stream marks the 20th anniversary of the Aven forums. My name is Michael Dore, and I'm on the Aven project team and board of directors. And let's start by going around and introducing everyone else here. Kelly, would you like to start?
Sure. I'm Kelly, and I've been on Aven since 2005. Became an administrator in 2006 and have been one ever since. I'm very active on the board. I'm there every day, reading and making posts and doing admin things. I'm also active in the LGBTQ plus community, doing presentations and so forth. I suppose other things, mundanely, I'm a scientist, engineer, and author. I'm also a senior. I'm an older person, which is pretty cool, which means that I didn't know that any of this existed until I was middle-aged.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm really into it. Other than I love listening to loud classical music. I suppose. And math. I love math. That in Aven, and I guess that's a nice brief introduction.
Awesome. DJ?
Hi, my name's David J. I'm the founder of Aven, and I currently, along with Mike and Kelly, serve on the board, and I am working on a project called Project Recognize to help to change how research is done so that we can collect better data about ACE populations. Outside of that, I work kind of helping people who deal with the nasty side of the internet, integrity and trust and safety teams, and advocating for better rules. We just passed a big law in California, which I'm excited about, and around mental health and social media. And I co-parent my daughter, who's 4, with 2 aromantic partners of mine in Oakland, California.
Awesome. And finally, Snow?
Snow or Snow. I've been on Aven since 2015. Served a number of roles there. I was on declassification team. I was on project team for a couple of years, and primarily what I do there now is a bunch of shit posting and memes. The one thing that I wanted to celebrate here was the Aven specific meme thread that has become, and here's my dog. Like I said, she was going to jump up and want to say hi. It's just a very fun environment where people can come and kind of, relax about, and make jokes and have, good friendships, and also see my dog, just like here. But I've also gone on a lot of meetups, both local and also international. And actually, my first international out-of-town Aven meetup was actually in Massachusetts. So that's where I got to meet Kelly, along with a couple of other Avenites. And I also, got to go to Iceland to meet a bunch of Avenites, and then Utrecht as well a few years ago. Nothing since COVID, though, unfortunately. So, yeah. And as far as my life, I'm just, I'm involved in my workplace with some 2S LGBTQIA, to, use the version of that acronym that we use, organizations there. I'm involved in the community as well with some mostly gender diversity groups. So not nearly as accomplished in activism as some other people here are, but it's all just nice to have a sense of community, and Aven definitely provides that for the ACE side of me.
Awesome. Okay, so we might get others popping along as the live stream progresses. I really don't know. This live stream is pretty informal and unplanned, so we'll see. Normally, we have Yasmin hosting things like this, and Yasmin always does a fantastic job, but she's not here right now, though she may pop on, which would be great. But in the meantime, I'll just have to muddle through. So, like I say, this is going to be pretty informal, just to see where this conversation takes us. For most of these events, we try to advertise more widely outside Aven, because Aven is an important part of the ACE community, but obviously the ACE community stretches way beyond our shores. But for this one, this is rather specific to the Aven forums, and that's our focus, and that's where we're looking, but obviously everyone is welcome to play. So yeah, anyone on the panel here should feel free to cut in at any point and ask you other questions. I didn't want to be the only one driving things, asking questions, and hopefully we'll get some questions from the YouTube comments as well. And we'll keep up with those as best we can, but if we miss something important, please do keep persisting and bringing it to our attention. So I just want to make another thing clear right in advance. This is another apology. It's almost certain that we're going to miss out mentioning important people, important events that are really central to the Aven community and our history. We're making absolutely no claim to be comprehensive here. And if someone isn't mentioned, this doesn't mean anything. It just means it's certainly not a deliberate slight. We can't, unfortunately, be comprehensive about everything. But it's also where you, the viewers, come in, because we'll do our best to keep an eye on the comments. And yeah, feel free to give us a prod. Okay, so in a minute I'm going to share screens because we had a great suggestion, and that was to start off with, even though this is a fairly informal and sort of free-for-all, we're going to start off with something a little more serious. And it was suggested it would be a good idea to just remember a few of the Avenites who are no longer with us, and we can't be comprehensive about this. We're going to miss people out. I'm sorry about that. We're just going to have a look at some people who were brought to our attention. So I will share my screen. Just give me a second. So yeah, the first person we'd like to call attention to is somebody called Kez. You can see this is their introduction post I've put up, and they were a very popular figure on Aven. They're from Australia, and they knew many people here in real life. You see their introduction here was all the way back in 2003. Sorry, and I'm going to read out a tribute here. This is a picture of them. You see, 1984 to 2019, they unfortunately passed away very young. And Kate from Aussie Aces wrote a very beautiful tribute, so I will read this out in part. They had several other. They were also known by, but by Kerry Dorney. And so, as Kate said, our friend Min so aptly said, it is utterly immobilizing to consider that one of us has gone, and it is. But we can also consider what great luck we had to count someone so good among our number. Dorney always had a kind word and a kind heart. She was always ready to become Kerry, to transition so easily from her online presence into someone you became close to in real life. She went out of her way to help you, offering her home to stay in. I'm told she once walked an Obernetter, that was another site she was involved with. She was meeting for the first time to her train, a half-hour walk, and saw her safely aboard to make sure this rather overwhelmed country visitor got home okay. Time is finite, love is not. I can't cover everything Kerry meant to me, let alone a whole community. I will close as instructed with this reminder. Dorney, we love you, we miss you, but you'll always be with us on the dream trails, and we know where to find you. Yes, that's very beautiful, and even people who did not know Cares, I think this is something, those who have lost somebody, whether online or not, it rings true. Another person we were asked to mention was Shaggy, also Australian. This is one of the threads that they started. You can have a look at. If anybody here knows any of like you, these people in person, then we'd love to get any thoughts you have. Another person who was very popular was Shockwave, who was they were a former. This is their Aven wiki page. They were a former project team member, moderator, and admin on Aven. They used to manage the visibility shop. They were in a relationship with another Avenite called Lego. So this is from the success stories thread. his shockwaves noting that Lego and I met here on Aven in the chat room and had a long distance thing over Skype for several months. And very sadly, they passed away a few years ago. And one other person I will mention who I knew myself, though not super well, is this is a post about them by somebody called Akira, who was also a bit of an Aven legend. But this is the post they wrote that somebody called Red Pandaborg unfortunately passed away, and people who've been on Aven for a long time might remember them from the chat room. They were also a very popular figure, and you could see they got lots of tributes from these threads. And like I say, there are many more people who unfortunately we've lost over the years, and we can't mention everybody, but they're all terribly missed. So I'm sorry to start on a serious and sad note, but does anybody, I don't know if anybody here has anything to add, or maybe anybody here knew and or wants to mention anything about these people. Otherwise, we will move on to the next thing.
Yes, I was actually good friends with Kaz. Even after she became inactive on Aven, we still kept in touch. Met her a couple of times, including in Australia. Jeremy, also known as Shockwave, was also a friend that I was able to meet in a meetup a couple of times. Both of them were we really miss. I really didn't know about Shockwave. That seemed to come somewhat sudden. I mean, he did have health issues, but didn't expect it to take him. Carrie, Kaz, unfortunately, we knew that it was coming. It was really difficult. So that's why we remember her so well. So yeah, we missed them all.
Yeah, missed them all and missed the other Avenites that we haven't mentioned that have also been lost over the years. Okay. Anybody want to add anything, or shall we go? Okay, so this is a celebration of the 20th anniversary. This is a celebration of the anniversary of the forums. So Aven itself was founded in 2001, and we had this is a front page, and DJ and Yasmin had a conversation about that last year. This is the celebration of the forums, and so let's go right back to the start. This is hopefully on the screen now. You can see the very first thread, one welcome, and here's a post by Aven Guy, that's David J, founding the forums. So, since we have you right here, would you like to maybe give a bit of info about the background to this, and what your thinking was at this time, and where you thought the forums were going to go? And
yeah, so I can give some of the timeline and set some of the context for where I was writing this post. So I had found an article in early 2001 called "My Life as an Amoeba," which was the first time the first Google search I ever did, and the first time I had found evidence of another asexual person. And I'd been struggling with my own identity, really feeling like I was broken, really feeling alone for all of high school, and then had just gotten to my first year of college. And so when I found this article, it was really powerful, and that was my inspiration to create the original Aven website. And then the article also had a comment section, and the comment section was filled with people. It was 3 or 4 pages of people just saying, "Oh, I'm asexual too. How can I find other people?" And so I'd had a vision of creating a place where aces could find one another. And that was partially true with the Haven for the Human Amoeba, which we also had a discussion about. And we also had an amazing Ace History Day focused on, which was a Yahoo group. So it was a single email thread that a handful of aces were talking on and having many discussions that I think were parallels to the discussions that have helped to shape a community over the years. And so I had put up, sort of coded a very basic website and put it up. And I put it up on my personal web space at my university. And then I saw that asexuality.org was available for purchase. And in those days, someone else had already bought it. But I found that person, because you could see their address, they happened to live like 30 minutes from my campus. So I reached out to them and asked if I could buy it. And they said, sure. And so I bought it for $25, and they like drove to campus, and I think it just been to Costco. The back of the car was filled with toilet paper, and they had this piece of paper for me to sign, and then the domain name was transferred, because this was before a lot of the modern domain infrastructure. So suddenly I have this domain name. I bought hosting for the domain name, and with the hosting came the ability to kind of a package that included forums. And so that summer this was in the spring of 2002. In the summer of 2002, I was working at a nonprofit in DC and living in the dorms at a university in DC with a bunch of kind of people from a Naval Academy from West Point. And which was very awkward, because I went to Wesley and I was this big queer kid, and they were all these like Army, Navy, all these Navy students. And so I was just holed up in my room the whole time, and was putting together the Aven forums, and also communicating with Nat Titman, Paranoid Android, because that's when I was going back and forth on the Aven FAQ, asking questions like exploring what did it mean for asexual people to experience sexual arousal? How do we think about diversity within the ace community? Like, I think some of the foundational ideas of what we hold about ace identity really came from Nat and the discussions we were having at that time. So I put the forum up really because I wanted to find a place for other aces to come together. We were having this discussion on the Haven for the Human Amoeba, but because it was just one email thread, whenever a new person came, it would sort of derail the conversation. We couldn't quite give that person the attention they needed. And I really wanted to create, above everything else, what's now the welcome area. I wanted a place where people could come and tell their stories and then have other people respond and celebrate them, because that was the thing that I most needed as a young ace person. And so this was really intended to sort of provide that space. And then the forum was originally seeded by some friends of mine from Haven for the Human Amoeba. And because we were on asexuality.org, it kind of quickly started to grow, because we quickly became the top search result on Google for the word asexual. So maybe I'll pause there. There's plenty to say after that moment, but that's some of where the community was in that moment when this post went up.
Right. But by the way, everybody else, feel free to jump in. It shouldn't just be me driving it. Does anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to ask about that?
Yeah, when we have grown actually sort of exponentially for quite a number of years, and I've collected screenshots of when we had so many members, and I could go over the dates of when we hit some of the milestones.
Mm-hmm.
I have a screenshot of when we reached 1,000 members, but it's missing a date. However, I do see that on 17 August 2003, we had 500 members. And then we had for 10,000, that occurred on January 2007. And then we finally met 100,000. Let me see if I can find that. That's it. Yeah.
I think somewhere we have like a table of members per year, which we sometimes get asked about for researchers. I don't have it to hand at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that the growth for early Aven was quite amazing. And was that something that surprised you, DJ?
Yes and no. I sort of suspected there were a lot of people out there, and I remember we were growing, and it was amazing because we were growing of just people like me who had sort of, and possibly like some of you who had invented this word to describe ourselves, and then typed it into Google. Like these were people who were had independently found the term and then were finding one another. The first 1,000, 2,000 people in the forum, I think first at least 1,500, and then around 2004, I think we had about 1,500 people in the forum at that point, was when an article came out in New Scientist magazine that in the UK that really set off a wave of press. And all of a sudden, all over the UK, and then the next year, all over the US, there were major press outlets talking about the fact that asexual people existed, because we really sort of defied expectations about human sexuality more than than we do now, and that with those waves of press came a just flood of people. And I remember us going in and really setting up people who could respond when they emailed in, people like having people ready to respond to them in the welcome area, just like trying to have people to help welcome and support all of these aces that were showing up in that time. But
And that 2004 article, this was from the this was the one based on the Anthony Bogart study, was it?
yes, it was based on the Anthony Bogart study, and then they interviewed me and I think a handful of other aces for it.
Yeah, that's the famous 1% figure, in case anybody's not familiar with it. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to come on to more. I've got some threads saved for a few more select Aven forum milestones, but I guess, DJ, you've just shared your joining story. That's one way of thinking of founding a forum. I was wondering if anybody else would like to share their joining story of when they first came to Aven, the forums, and what their impressions were.
I wonder, like, how different my 20s would have been if I had found Aven before. I never really thought to Google what David was Googling, and it's kind of a complex personal growth story. A lot of things probably would have changed in my 20s, but it wasn't until my early 30s when I thought to maybe this applies to me. And so Googling more information on asexuality, coming across Aven, reading the information on the main page several times over, considering joining the forums, but feeling, I don't know if I should. And I did in January of 2015, and have spent thousands of dollars traveling and thousands of hours making memes. So, yeah, that's my that's my joining story. I just found it to be like, even just having something like a forum type setting, you don't find those as often anymore in this era of social media. And I find that it's easier to build community in that type of setting rather than traditional social media like Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and things like that can often be more about sort of marketing yourself and making it about revolving around yourself, while community spaces like Aven forums are much more involved and interactive in like a group where multiple people can be interacting, which expands your perspectives a lot more. And you have some people just join Aven, ask a few questions, they feel they're answered and they leave. Some people stick around for the social element. Some people stick around just because they want to provide all the information they can, and they want to help as many people whoever come by. And I just think it's a great mix of different types of people in a very good medium for that.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. I personally like forums as well. Even though that they are considered a bit old-fashioned by many people, because you can write thought-out posts. They have their weaknesses as well, and I personally also do enjoy instant messaging. Like the recent rise of Discord in the ACE community has been something I've enjoyed personally. But yeah, I think there's still definitely a place for the forums, yeah. Anything else you'd like to share about your specific when you entered Aven? What was like first impressions, Snow?
It just a lot of interesting discussions to learn a lot about different things, and seeing like a mix of the social environment to the non, asexuality type topic. So other discussions and just, interacting, and saw a diversity of people. Even some of the more, heated threads presented challenges and ways for me to, engage in more just like deeper thought, intellectual kind of angles to it as well. So it was a great mix of all sorts of different conversations you could join in depending on what you felt like doing at the time.
And Yolan, how many posts do you have now?
I'm getting, I think I have 79,000 or something like that. One of my very immature primary accomplishments on Aven was last year on June 9th, which in North America we put it like 6-9. I know in the UK you would do it as 9-6 because it's a 9th of the 6th month, but when we often date that as 6-9, and at 4:20 p.m. my time, I got my 69,420th post at that exact time. So that was a very immature accomplishment of mine.
I understand. I've done similar things, even though I have about. I don't have 10,000 posts yet, I don't think. So yes, you're a long way ahead of me.
Yeah, I'm at 78,989 now, so I'll probably get to 79,000 today, and I don't think any accomplishment will match my 69,420 though.
How about you, Kelly? What was your joining story?
Well, I really didn't know that there was such thing as asexuality, although I knew I was different. So I think I must have been about 47, and I was Googling, forget exactly what the words were, but this thing came up with mentioning something called asexuality, and it had a link to Aven, and I checked it out. I thought, wow, there's a whole community of people like me. I mean, I was kind of surprised because I never really thought about it before. So I lurked a bit, and then I finally joined. Then I found that at that time it was a much smaller community, and I learned that I really got along with just about everybody very well, more so than I've really done in any other forum before that. And I ended up going on a lot of meetups to meet some of these people in real life. I went all around the world doing so, and became friends with a lot of people. And it's really been a life-changing experience. I'm still very active there, 60,000 some posts, and keep in touch with some of the very early members of Aven that have since left. Some of them that are still on Aven and very active. And I've really never seen a community that I can relate to as well. So I finally feel like I'm a part of something. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I of course, had the pleasure of meeting you in the UK and in Canada. I don't think we've ever met in America, but likewise, met DJ quite a few times. Snow, I haven't had the privilege of meeting you yet in real life, but hopefully one day.
Yeah, I started and organized the selection process for the meetup in Edinburgh this year, but I've decided that, given the state of the world, that it's not wise for me to go at this point. So I'm definitely going to miss out on that and all the UK people that I already have met and didn't get to meet, but would go to a meetup in Edinburgh. But I have met like a lot of people. Like I said, I've been to Kelly's house, very, very nice historic house that she has. And in the international meetups to Reykjavik and Utrecht, it was mostly British Avenites that went, because like UK Avenites are just like dedicated meetup people. is what I found. The first trip was mostly like coordinated in the Meetup Mart threads by Sky Captain, a UK Avenite and moderator. And that was such a successful trip that I coordinated the next one for Utrecht. And there's also a lot of number of Germans that have shown up too. Kimmy from Sweden went on her first ever trip abroad and first ever trip by herself to Utrecht, and she said it was the best week of her life, and honestly I can definitely relate to that. Lots of fun to meet up, and so in that case, like, it served as a good opportunity for people to grow in, traveling on their own, but knowing that they're going to meet some people there that they can feel very comfortable around. Not everybody can really socialize the same way in online environments. It might not be like kind of how they relate to people. But it does provide, some people just feel more at ease getting to know people through this kind of medium first, which is, helped with a lot of personal growth for people in so many ways. So yeah, I've probably met about I could probably name 30 Avenites that I've met in person.
I'm just going to put up we got a message in the comments from Mackenzie Holiday. Don't let me interrupt anybody, but speaking of joining the forum, I'm curious to know how the tradition of welcoming new members with cake began, because that's something that we actually do have a thread we can share about that. This is just, I'll come to this in a few minutes, but so thank you for that comment. Before we just move on to that, does anybody, yeah, I agree, Snow, what you're saying, and yeah, I think the UK we have a geographic advantage in terms of meeting up, but certainly compared to America, it's easier to get around the country, and maybe that's where the tradition came from. Other countries, many of them have a thriving meetup scene as well.
Yeah, so far for the two international meetups, Reykjavik and Utrecht, the only non-Europeans to go were myself and Saturn 00, and we're both Canadian, so no Americans have actually gone to that meetup, that kind of type of meetup yet. But yeah, I know Kelly has traveled the world and met many Avenites that way. So yeah, we certainly have some cosmopolitan members.
Yeah, and I've traveled to a number of different conferences and met folks in New York, London, and Madrid, and that's been really amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I haven't gone to those. I joined a few months after the Toronto one, so if I'd gone even a year earlier, I probably could have made it to that and met a lot more.
Awesome. So, if anybody else has anything to add on this line, then please go for it. Otherwise, let's move on to, well, I'll give you a minute for that. Otherwise, we can move on to the question of cake, since that was brought up. Anybody want to add anything first?
No, on to cake.
Yeah, cake. It's never the wrong time for cake. So yeah, have some more comments on cake here, and one here on garlic bread. Garlic bread is good too. I remember back in the first Asexual Awareness Week, the second Asexual Awareness Week in 2011, Sarah Breath Brooks was organising it, and this was the first time that there was an ACE survey in that week, and the last question on the survey was, which is better, which do you prefer, cake or pie? So back then the alternative wasn't garlic bread, it was pie, and I think cake won by quite a 60-40 or something, but it shows the community's evolved. So let me see if I can find something on cake. So here is the Aven wiki entry for cake. I think that this was written a long time ago. The Aven forum has a long tradition of welcoming new members of cake. It is commonly used to greet newcomers and welcome lounge and Aven chat. Since its creation as an emote in 2003, it has become an informal symbol of asexuality. Cake is also given for congratulations, comfort, or when a poster does something particularly asexy. the cake emoticon was first suggested in this thread on June 23rd, 2004, and drawn the same day by Live Are Perfect, who was once an admin on Aven. The tradition and popularity of cake on Aven had been around for some time before then, as evidenced a couple of links at the end of 2003. So let's have a look at the cake at this thread here.
And I will say I remember uploading this emoji when there was this request.
Here we go. Here's the request. Emoticon. And yeah, it was something that was very striking to me as when I joined, that yeah, everybody was walking each other with cake. I think I even remember a chant at a Pride going something like 2, 4, 6, 8. We don't like sex, but we do like cake. Which I should mention, of course, not some asexual people do like sex. It's not the same thing as not liking sex, but that was something that related. A lot of people could relate to. So shall we? This is the cake, and the tradition has been in some time. So apparently these are. Let's have a look at these earlier threads. From what I remember, Aven has always been cake friendly, which is nice. Might as well be cake. And another one here.
So I didn't realize that we'd actually drawn it because it's really similar to the kind of official strawberry cake emoji that exists.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's a larger version of it somewhere. I'm not sure. I remember exactly. And apparently, here's the legend of the Aven cake. Once upon a time in the castle of the Aven guy, there was much sorrow. The castle had only been rebuilt after a vicious troll attacked it, and people began fearing. Wow. No, I haven't read this before. Okay, I assume that this somehow gets into cake.
And unclear, but our cake emoji predates the Unicode approved cake emoji by 7 years, and the Unicode cake approved cake emoji, strawberry shortcake slice emoji, looks eerily similar to our strawberry slice cake emoji. So it's possible. There's a real possibility that we sort of made it into emoji canon.
Yeah, we should be copywriting our cake for sure. Okay. Anybody here like to add anything on the subject of cake before we move on?
Can we bring up the Aven cake emoji?
I can try to. Do you have a link to hand?
Oh, I don't.
I'm just going to Google it. With a few. This is the.
No, these are not the original one. Oh well.
If I go to images, does that have it? Maybe.
Oh,
I mean, it's cake
Yeah,
in the eights.
there it is.
That's there.
Oh, you okay?
This one,
Which
white
one's-
garlic bread, cake, and that one.
Which one do you want?
So this pixelated one next to the green
Oh,
cat.
yes, that's right. Actually, on Reddit, yeah, that's right. I think we've got that on our Discord server, or at least some version of it. Very nice. And so, do we? Is this the one that was referred to in the?
Yeah, that's the original one.
Let's just go back to. This is the one that was drawn on the same day by Live Are Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. All well before my time. Oh, and Amigo says, "What about the dragon thing?" I'm less sure what that refers to. Though one of our moderators, Tanwan, has a nickname as the dragon. Maybe that's what it is referring to. Yep. David J's here. Oh, I can see Yasmin's here. Excellent. Shall we?
If we want to compare, I just sent you a link to the official strawberry cake emoji, which bears a striking resemblance. Oh, Yasmin! Yay!
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Great to have you here.
Yeah, a lot better now you're here.
Oh, thank you.
No, I'm a rather lousy host compared to you, so feel free to take over at any time or start asking all the questions. Right, I'm just going to put up a link that DJ has sent.
We were just talking about the cake emoji, and I was commenting that this strawberry shortcake emoji came after our Aven emoji. Like we drew an emoji on the Aven forums, and then this, which looks eerily similar to our cake emoji, became part of emoji canon 7 years later.
Do we have a copyright infringement issue on our hands?
I know. I think
we trademarked this cake.
Subtle, like there must be an ace somewhere in the emoji, like the Unicode board.
Was ours shortcake or just normal cake though?
You could call it shortcake. It had little red dots on top, so maybe those are strawberries.
Oh. So when we talk about liking cake, are we actually referring to shortcake and we just haven't realized it?
I think it's all forms of cake.
Cake is a spectrum.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's true. I mean, we have those debates over here about whether Jaffa cakes are cakes, which are like little biscuit things, but some call them cakes, some call them biscuits. So the criteria for cake varies.
It's just a good question, though. I still keep in touch with Live Are Perfect. I can ask him what he was thinking of when he created it.
Yeah.
So where were we at in terms of like the questions and all of those things? What have we covered so far?
We've covered the we've covered the very founding of Aven. We've talked about our joining story, and we have also remembered some Avenites who are sadly no longer with us. We've talked about cake. I was going to move on to the project team next, but as you're here and the only person who hasn't introduced yourself, would you like to say a bit about yourself in case anybody doesn't know you?
Yes. Well, hi everybody. Yasmin Benoit, board member of Aven since about 2019, and I do a lot of activism stuff among other things.
Awesome.
And we also sharing, Yasmin, what's your Aven joining story?
Well, it's weird because I mean I don't have like definitive evidence for this, but I'm quite sure that I had an Aven account when I was like 15 or something, or at the very least I was on the website. Maybe I didn't actually have an account, but I definitely remember being on the forums when I first discovered the term asexuality and like looking things up and everything. I can't remember whether I actually had an account, but I was definitely around. And then I sort of like rejoined officially like later in like my early 20s when I was kind of starting up on the activism stuff. Can't remember what my reasoning was, maybe just to like keep an eye on things and stuff. Or maybe when I became a board member, maybe that's when I did it. So I kind of have like multiple joining stories.
And then one question I saw that seems like it'd be fun to get to is, and yes, Jasmine or Mike, if you've got something you're excited about, but how have the Aven forums changed you as a person and or affected how you act in other parts of life? I'd be curious to hear everyone's thoughts on that. I don't know if anyone would like to jump in, or I'd be happy to.
But before we do that, let's do a very serious. Before we get onto that light, let's do a very serious question. Let's tell us your favorite cakes.
If a cheesecake is done well, that's really good. But there's also like red velvet cake, and even around my birthday, like my mom often just makes, like Betty Crocker home cake mixes. She was never that into cooking, but it was easy for her to make cakes like that. And it's just, just a yummy cake.
I mean, I feel like this is sort of like blasphemous, but I've like never actually been a big cake person. Even like as a kid, I never really ate that much cake. So if I had to pick a type of cake, it'd probably be like a cupcake because they're like smaller and I can kind of finish it faster. Probably like a salted caramel, like little cupcake would suffice.
Well, you're not alone. There are, like I mentioned, you probably before you came, that some aces prefer pie. That was even a survey question back in 2011, and somebody also mentioned garlic bread, and so there are alternatives.
These are such like big foods, like pies, cakes. What about like a little muffin or something like a more petite, less grand? Like who has the time to eat a whole pie? I can't remember the last time I had a pie.
I'm with you in cupcakes. I've been making, now that I have a kid, I do, you know, birthday party baking and stuff. And I'd have to say like a good like chocolate peanut butter cupcake situation.
Oh, that sounds good.
But I made red velvet cupcakes from scratch with like from beets and a strawberry cream cheese frosting made from real strawberries for my kid's birthday. And it was like relatively low sugar and really, really tasty. And so that's my current like favorite cake in my mind.
That sounds really good.
For me, it's just a very simple chocolate or sponge cake is great by me. Also quite like coffee cake.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't drink coffee, but I'll eat it in a cake.
No, exactly, same. Anybody else want to share their favorite cake before we move on to David's question? Okay, so sorry to have interrupted that, David. Maybe you could just repeat the question, and then we could all have a think about that.
Should we keep the screen up, or
yeah, we can. I can unshare the screen since I don't have anything else to share just at the moment.
Oh, there we go. Then we can share faces. Yeah. So the question was. How have the Aven forms changed you as a person and/or affected how you act in other parts of life?
I think I take my life less seriously, and I mean that in a good way. The past few years has been interesting with opportunities I've been given to kind of play the part that when I was much younger, I'm like, oh, well, this is what a career is supposed to be like, and like advancing in a career, and just finding that it wasn't compatible with how I had become comfortable expressing myself in environments like Aven. So I just felt even more out of place than usual. And I decided I'm going to go back to something where I can, feel more open to act like myself and being, appreciated in an environment like Aven. And especially with like, JFF and the meme thread and just the whole like ship posting motif of my personality there has just helped me kind of reprioritize life and realize that I don't have to like any picture that I painted of what adult life was supposed to be like was pretty much satirical back then anyway. So, you don't need to live that standard sort of life.
I could share one thing, and I mean there are many ways that it's affected how I act. But what one I think quite interesting way is, and this is as much being on the project team and the sort of behind the scenes, is that it's actually kind of given me an appreciation sometimes for those in authority. I realize that it's really important to challenge authority and everything, but sometimes you don't always get the full picture unless you've actually been in that sort of situation yourself. And I hadn't before joining Aven or the project team. I'd never really been in that sort of situation where suddenly we were the ones who like have to make things work and have to make things happen, and everybody has an opinion about the job you're doing, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that, but it gave me a different perspective on that. I'm trying to remember. For those of you who like Deep Space Nine, there's a wonderful scene I'm reminded of it's Major Kira, who is like a Bajoran freedom fighter, and she's defending this old man on the moon who's about to have his house demolished in order for reasons that are very necessary to Bajor, and Cisco the captain has to persuade her that this is something that has to be done, and he says that, you know, it's very unpleasant, but you're on the other side now. You were a freedom fighter, but you're now the one in authority. It's pretty unpleasant, isn't it? And she says it's absolutely horrible. But it gave her a lot of food for thought. And sometimes it feels okay. And I don't want to. I've never been a freedom fighter as such, but it does. It gave me a different perspective, being the one behind the Iron Curtain, if you like.
I feel like. Oh, sorry, Kelly. Do you want to
go? Sure, because mine will be brief. How Aven has changed me. Prior to joining Aven, I was already a world traveler, and that was one of the things that I really liked to do. I would tend to go alone and go to far off places to see things. But after I joined Aven and got to know fellow Avenites, I started traveling not to be alone and to see things, but to not be alone and to see people. And I've really never been in a forum that I felt so much a part of. So it's been a very positive impact to my life.
Awesome.
Shall I go?
Yes, go for
it. I mean, I feel like for me, it's probably less like the forum itself, but more just like Aven in general. Like, since becoming a board member and getting to work with like the other board members and like the project team and everyone behind the scenes, I feel like that's been helpful for me, because like I think I became a board member in like 2019, and that was kind of when I was still like just getting into things, and it kind of just like gave me a group for like support, because like outside of like the board and people at Aven, like I don't really like know anybody, and people don't usually like talk to me very often. So like you guys have kind of been like the only sort of like group that I've been a part of, like kind of from the beginning of the journey, and I feel like that's been helpful. And like, yeah, so I feel like kind of like in that sense, I feel like that's kind of influenced the way I kind of move through the community, like knowing that I have people I can like ask questions and like vent to, and like people that can fill me in on things I don't know about the community, or things that are going on in different places and with different groups. And then I guess like, you know, in my work, it's been very cool to be like attached to an organization that like I went to as a teenager when I was like working myself out, and now further down the line, never really thought I'd be like on the board of directors with all of you guys and sort of be in that position. So I think it's been cool from like that perspective.
Yeah, well, it's been obviously wonderful having you, and I think, like you've said several times, you were almost a board member before you were a board member. that we were working together very closely on several projects, and so it kind of formalized what was already the case in many ways. And as for that last point, so maybe people, I realized people who are slightly younger than you were, I think, were actually born after Aven was set up, and it always amazes me when I see people who are actually moderating Aven who they were actually born after Aven. They're actually younger than Aven.
I'm sure this is like what, the 21st birthday? 21st?
This is Aven's 20. Well, Aven, the forum's 20 years old, and the site itself is about 21 and a bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty much like it is the longest running organization, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, even for me, I was born in like 96, so even like Aven's been around for like most of my life. So I think it's cool how it's been for like, so like for different generations, sort of like a number one stopping point, especially the forum. So it's very significant in that sense.
And DJ, would you like to answer your own question?
Yeah, and for me, so many things. I mean, I think that it has been a huge part of my own journey to figure out not only my ace identity, but how to form, how to build committed into relationships, how to form community in the ways that I've wanted to, like having so many stories and having so much support, knowing that I'm not alone, and also just knowing the huge diversity of ways that ace people are like living lives in ways that work. when I was younger, I was so scared that I wouldn't be able to figure out how to do that. And I think it's taught me a lot about movements and a lot about community. A lot of my life and work now is really focused on how to helping, like building movements, helping people to build movements, working at the intersection of movements and technology. And I think Aven really set me on that path in a way that now most of that's not East community related. Most of that's related to climate change and trying to fix social media and other stuff. But a lot of the lessons from Aven are things that I still kind of hold and think about all the time.
I thought I'd share some other cool stories in forums. Allow me to figure out who I am, and my actions have changed according to that. And one here, being on Aven helped me accept many aspects of myself that I've been suppressing throughout my life. That was a painful process, but I'm happier now than I have been in the past. And yeah, I think that's something that many of us can definitely relate to.
Yeah, I was involved in other online communities in my teens and 20s that really helped shape me. So I know that if I had found Aven back in the day, it would have, had a definitely an impact on me like that. It would have been my type of environment. It was just the subject matter. I wasn't aware of it at that time and how relevant it was to my life. So I can understand how much of an impression something like that can have on you when you're, young, like teens and early 20s, and just want to figure yourself out and find a reason to, pursue a direction in your life. And it's amazing the level of influence that being able to reach out to people all over the world can have in shaping you and changing your outlook and how that impacts decisions for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. So another question that I'm really excited to ask everybody is, especially those of you who have been on here a long time, and that's what changes have you seen on the forum and to Aven culture over the years? I can put that up as a question. Band.
I suppose perhaps there's only I suppose I've been on Aven for a while. Basically, how it has changed is that it has grown rather immensely. It used to be a fairly small group that basically everybody knew each other. So we had one time the person below me does this, and people could respond. Well, sure, you're talking about me, aren't you? And that was fun. And then so we had that person above me does this, and they described as something they know about the person above them, and that was pretty cool. It showed that we really did know each other. It has grown so much. We reached 1 million posts in 2008. Now, Just for Fun alone has about 2 million posts. We have well over 100,000 people. It's really become global, and we still, are a community that somewhat knows each other, but it's so big that we can't know everybody. So I think it's sort of become a little bit more complicated, and monitoring the posts and moderating has become a little bit different. I was a moderator and administrator of forums in the 90s and prior to Aven, and it was fairly easy to moderate because there was such a small group in the forum. Now it's actually so large that it's we have a very large team of ad mods to do this. But one of the things that does seem to be the same is that people are often still on the same wavelength that we were near the beginning, and people are still much more friendly towards fellow members than on other forums. So that's one of the things that we have going for us that we had in the beginning, or at least near the beginning when I joined, that we still have now. So that's one of the things that I still appreciate about Aven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see a lot of that, and I think that yeah, sometimes when new communities spring up, then a lot of people say, this is actually what Aven was like back in the day, in that everybody knew each other, and it's sort of, I think it's inevitable from growth that in some ways Aven was a victim of its own success, and it's less obviously people still know each other, but you can't really know everybody, and you can't follow everything anymore, or at least I certainly can't. Yeah, and as far as the global thing is concerned, I would say that we do have people from all over the place, though Aven itself is still seen as somewhat Western and Anglo-centric, which, I mean, justifiably in many ways, even though we do have sites in other languages, most of our members tend to be from just a few countries, and so, which is why, it's great, and we completely support other organizations sprouting up throughout the world. And Aven is one of these organizations that we see ourselves as part of a community. We're not trying to be the entire race community, we're trying to be one part of it. But it's really good to see other organizations that cover other cultures and languages as well. There's a question. Oh, sorry, David, you want to say something?
I'm going to jump in just as far as change in the forums. I remember when the forums were just about the word asexual, and that was the only identity that was really getting talked about. And then I remember the evolution of romantic identity, of aro identity, when gray A and demisexual people began to speak up more in the forums. A lot of the discussion about genderqueer and agender identity that was emerging on the forums, and how there's been, like, we've moved from being an asexual community to an ace community. I remember when I want to say it was 2008, 2009-ish was when the term ace emerged as a umbrella term for the community, because it no longer made sense to center asexual people. So I think this evolution to a community that really is about supporting a kind of broad coalition of people on the spectrum who've come together because of the experiences we share, has been a really beautiful way that I've seen the community evolve.
Awesome. And yeah, I think my recollection is that romantic orientations have been around a long time, in that they, in fact, we saw a couple of years ago that they originated on Haven for the Human Amoeba, or possibly even before then. So that must be around from early 2002 or something, whereas the grey ace spectrum, I think the awareness of that came quite a bit later.
I mean, I haven't been around long enough to really decipher the differences myself, but so I'll probably leave that question to the rest of you.
Mm-hmm. Yasmin, by the way, if you have any questions you'd like to, since you came in late, if you'd like to pose any questions to the group, then feel free to anytime.
Okay, I will give it some thought. I don't want to cover ones you guys have already said before I got here, but
I also see in the chat that Can Became Insane just found Aven and joined our live stream. So a big welcome to a new Aven member.
What a moment to find it. Yeah, what a coincidentally, yeah.
So this is the 20-year anniversary for you just joining us.
Yeah, and you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question here for you, DJ. I wonder, David J, do you feel proud of Aven, or do you look at it in a more detached project way?
Oh, so I'd say I'm immensely proud of Aven, and grateful for the many, many people over the years who've been working tirelessly to make this community function, to make it work, to allow it to support so many people on their journeys. Yeah, it's I think Aven is a I think I've played a small role in making, I've played an important, but even compared to other people, small role in making it what it is today. But yeah, I'm immensely proud of it. And I think I have, outside of my work on the board, outside of some work I've done in the kind of off of the forums, I haven't been active on the forums themselves for many years, and I think part of that is because the work that I've been called to is outside of it. Often there's really powerful visibility work to be done that's mostly not on the forums. Like when we lobbied the American Psychiatric Association to be delisted as a mental disorder, which was successful. That was in kind of 2008, 2009, and finally, I think 2014 was when it went through. I'm doing work right now to change the way that academic research happens so that asexual, the word asexual appears on surveys, which then means we get a lot of data about what ace people are experiencing around the world. That's really important if we want to influence policy, if we want to understand that the needs that our community is having. So there's a lot of important work that all of us on the board and many other folks are doing that isn't necessarily that visible on the forums. And I'd say that kind of work has become more of my focus to the extent that I'm doing like a stuff, because a lot of my life is, being a parent and having a job and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's still something I'm very immensely proud of and have a huge amount of gratitude for.
And I think in some ways, I think the way you founded Aven and then sort of set it off in motion sort of shows the power of delegation, like not trying to do everything yourself. And in fact, for that, of course, the founding the AdMod team was a huge part of that, because I realized that running a forum full time is something that one person couldn't really be expected to do, even if that was your full-time job, which it couldn't be. And then, of course, the project team, which because I mentioned that because right here I have the very post that happened. Want to have a look? This is I'm
embarrassed about this post already.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, 2006. Wow. That was 2 days before my 10th birthday.
I was going through a phase.
What was that, Yasmin?
I said this must have been a few days before my 11th birthday, I think.
Well, this is where this is where the project team was founded. And so DJ Starts, unlike most of you here, I've been watching this thing since the beginning. I founded it, so you see, even then it felt like Aven had been around a while, and of course, 2006, it feels like forever ago. I founded this organization back in 2001. As we said, the forum's 2002, but the Aven 2001. With the undirected idea, a community was a good thing, and that after being isolated from my entire life, having other asexual people to talk to. And then it goes on and talks about how now it's the summer of 2006. So I think we've had an explosion of activity. We're almost at 10,000 members. Well, and of course, we're now at over 100,000. The community has grown large enough to require its own governing structure. And then goes on down here. The paradox of this is that the bigger Aven has gotten, the less I've been there on the ground. And then we get to the proposal. I propose that we create a team of individuals who dedicated to expanding and improving Aven beyond the forums. And this, of course, became the Aven project team. Now, I've been a member of the Aven project team for over 10 years now. And Stow, you were on that as well.
For a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. So
that was a lot of
this
fun.
has obviously been. Yeah. So maybe you'd like to talk about what you did on the project team.
Yeah, I was the resource and education director, which was kind of it evolved out of a position previously that was kind of obsolete, that was done like the survey team or something, which ended up being completely separate from Aven. So the resource and education director, I kind of got to shape what that was for. And so I reviewed a lot of the content that was on the main site and added some more too. Got a lot of feedback from the rest of the project team and also AdMods as well. So that, led to an updated FAQ or FAQ and also some pages with basic information on romantic orientation, the gray area. Yeah, so things that, and the differences between attitudes towards sex, whether it's like a personal thing, are you personally okay with having sex, or a cultural thing, like are you okay with the subject of sex in a more cultural sense? So having that information up there, I thought was really important to capture more of how the community itself has evolved. The background that I took with me to make that was far more about Aven as a community and asexual experiences from individual people than it was from any like formalized academic theoretical kind of thing. I just knew from like the number of conversations on the subjects that I saw on the forums made it very clear that information needed to be available out there where people could just read the basics of it and get that sense of it. And then see if maybe they wanted to explore it through discussion, through things like forums, whether that's on Aven or other, asexual groups like on social media, Reddit, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right. And DJ, you were on the first Aven project team, is that right? Oh, have we lost DJ?
Oh no.
It took a second for me to realize that. It just looked like he was really focused on something.
Maybe
at least
Yeah.
it froze in a good place. Oh, there we go.
You back, DJ?
I may be back, but my internet's being a little feisty.
We were just, I was just saying, you were on the very first project team when you founded it. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And I have things to say about my internet keeps cutting out, so I'll message someone else.
Okay. Well, we can come back to you in a minute if your internet is better. I'll talk a bit about my experience. I joined in 2011, a bit before Snow, and I think it was at a time when the project teams, when they came in, everybody had to rediscover the role for themselves. Because even though DJ had very nicely founded the point of the project team, and several other people had done this beforehand, sometimes this kind of gets lost to collective memory, and so you get elected into a position called a project team, and people ask, well, what is the project team? What does that do? And I joined at the same time as Andrew Hinderleiter, who was very active on the research front at the time, Ariel, who restarted Avenues, which has been going really well since then, and thanks to everybody who's contributed to that. And also Spiraling Snowy, I believe, who is Australian ace, who has recently rejoined the project team, and somebody else called Walter. And yeah, I remember that we had long conversations about what the project team actually was needed for, and eventually we split up the roles, and I took the role of mainstream media coordinator, and started trying to coordinate the emails that came in to the inbox, and try to get them to the various media leaders in different countries. And Andrew took the research role and drafted the first set of rules for research. And like I say, Ariel revived Avenues. I think Avenues had existed beforehand, but had not come out for many years. And those were three of the things that were most memorable to me at the time. And so the project team, we weren't the very first people. Since I do media, it wasn't the very first time we started coordinating media. There were pre-existing media teams, but I guess it was at a time when, having a UK media team, having a US media team wouldn't really cut it, because there were other countries we were getting requests in for. And these days we try to, if I get a request, say for a German media, I will try to reach out to my German contacts so they can take the request. But back then we didn't really know people in too many countries. So we often had to answer these things ourselves. And so I remember appearing in media, Brazil, Germany, a lot of other countries, Korea. Whereas these days I'd be very much trying to find somebody from the country to actually represent them. Back then it was like we were just appearing left, right, and centre in the media for lots of different countries because we didn't have the contacts to pass them on.
So I think one of the first things we did together, Michael, was BBC Korea, which was
That's right. I
interesting.
remember that, and yeah, like I say, we would have loved to have found a Korean person to go on that, but never mind. We did our best. And I mean, DJ, you might want to. I don't know if your internet's back now, but if you wanted to talk about your early project team, and you could also maybe talk a bit about how the media requests were handled before there sort of was an organized project team. And I know you had some big media successes for pieces on ABC, if I remember rightly, 2020.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it'd be great to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think my internet's back. So what I was trying to say before is that the project team was intended to be a precursor to the board, for us to move forward as an organization, kind of have someone who was thinking about the East community beyond Aven, because what I'd found was that I'd started to move sort of beyond the forums, and we had this organized group, the Admon team, that was managing forums, where there's all of this opportunity to be supporting local organizing, to be working with the press, to be working in partnership with LGBT organizations to provide support to these people. And I wanted a way for people to kind of support one another in doing that work. And that was the idea. And I think that's in many ways what it became. And prior to then, we had built up an Aven media team. So I remember in 2004, right when this New Scientist article came out, they sent me a day or two before it was released. They sent me the press release for the article. So the article is such a big deal. It had its own press release. And I remember reading that press release and being like, oh, this is really well written. Like, this is going to be a big deal. We're going to get a lot of interest. Like, other reporters are going to want to talk about this. So I went on the forums and recruited a bunch of people to be, especially people in the UK, to be media team members, and then hosted a training where we talked about how to talk to the press. Because of my activist history, I'd been media trained. And so I was then media training them, talking about, like, here's how you prep a soundbite. Here's how, if a reporter asks you a question, they usually can't put their question in the story, only your answer. So if they ask a question that's slightly off, you just give the answer the question you wish they'd asked. And so we talked about, we trained that, and then we had this list of a dozen or so people that were taking media requests. And that list grew as media requests came in. And so by the time we were on 2020, I think I was on myself by the View, but by the time we were on 2020 in Montel Williams, we had a number of folks from all over the world who really had experience talking to the press, who could get up and give some perspective on ACE communities. And so originally I was handling all of those requests. I was handling hello@ email address. We would get a lot of emails from people who just were looking for support. Like, they would email in rather than posting on the forums. So we had an Aven support team. We had a group of people who were volunteers, and at first I was answering all the emails that got sent to hello@, but as after we'd have a major press event, there'd just be dozens and dozens a day coming in. I didn't have the space to give them all the attention that they deserved. So then we recruited a team of maybe 8 or 10 people, and I would kind of move through and forward the messages to those people so that each person would get a thought out response. And then this was also around the time the project team was, a little bit after that was when we did the, and this isn't quite asking you a question that came before, but that's when we had the Aven DSM task force. So that was the group of people who were working to delist asexuality as a mental disorder in the DSM-5. That I think came out of similar work. So there's been just a huge amount of exciting work to do that's not directly AdMoc related.
Yeah, awesome. And I really relate to that part about how when a big media request or a big media piece comes in, then suddenly everything goes completely berserk. Yeah, to see what one I remember very well is this one. What's it like to be asexual? This was an article appeared in the BBC about was it 2012, I think, and it has a link to Aven right here on the BBC page, and just things went absolutely. I remember we were just swimming in media requests. We got about 10 media requests in one day, and it was just like.
I remember reading that article in 2012 and thinking, it's a very interesting subject, but it's not like it applies to me because, and then it just took me a couple years after that to realize that, yeah, there was a reason that I found it particularly intriguing to, read about that. So yeah, if it wasn't for stuff like that, it might have taken me even longer to eventually find Aven. So the media angle of it has definitely been very successful.
Yeah. And Kelly, Yasmin, I realize you've never been on the project team as such, at least in name, but obviously you've both worked with the media quite a bit. Do you have anything to add to the general discussion?
I mean, sometimes I wish I'd been born like a decade earlier, because I feel like being part of that like initial early 2000s wave and like doing like the media training with you guys and having like that sort of like group thing of like, okay, guys, stuff is about to go down. Let's band together and go forth, like with DJ leading like Aragorn and Lord of the Rings or something. I feel like that sounds like a fun time. I feel like it's kind of like different nowadays, but that sounded like a fun time to be involved.
And oddly, I too wish I were born a decade earlier. But as far as the press, I actually really haven't been on camera much. But what I have done was give asexuality presentations. And what's interesting is when I first started giving them, maybe 2006, perhaps. There would be maybe 2 people that would show up, and I'd go to the same conferences every year and give a updated asexuality conference, and the numbers in attendance grew each year. So that was very good to know. And I would bring up Aven sometime during the presentation, but first, just before we had COVID, and I was still giving them, people would come to the presentations already being familiar with Aven.
Yeah, I mean, I was just doing a panel like a few days ago, and those are the people there. Like Aven comes up all the time when people like say like online spaces or what ace organizations do we have. Like Aven is still the one that people reference first, even though we have like there's like Reddit and there's Tumblr and there's so many different like social platforms nowadays. So it's cool that Aven's been able to like withstand the test of time in that sense. But it's funny in terms of like media stuff, because sometimes like I look at stuff like that I do and I look back at stuff that like DJ was doing years ago and I'm like, God, the questions are so similar. They're a bit more polite now, but it's like a weird sense of like deja vu going on. So I feel like we need another New Scientist article. I feel like we need another like wave of intrigue just to sort of, I don't know, nudge things along a little bit more sometimes.
I think what's exciting there is seeing asexuality break into the media in other countries, because it often reminds me of what it was like, countries that have had less coverage of asexuality. The situation there is much like it was in, say, the UK and the US 10 years ago, simply because the coverage has been less, and for whatever reason, the asexual community has been quite Western-centric, and yeah, so it's been, just from my point of view, it's been very exciting seeing that process playing out, even though it happens over and over again, but it shows things are going forward. Okay. Right. I have a few more threads that we can talk about. I realize that we've been on for nearly an hour and a half, and maybe we should. I think we're intending to keep this to 2 hours. I will move on to another thread. So, actually, I'm going to start with this. But there's somebody here we haven't mentioned at all, and like I said, that we can't be comprehensive, and so there are important people to Aven's history that we're going to unfortunately not mention today, but I would like to mention this person. This is the thread. In fact, there are two people here I'd like to mention. The thread is called Lieutenant Commander Coleslaw's Appreciation Thread. Now, for those of you who don't know, Coleslaw is the person who runs the tech side of Aven and is the one that makes the forums actually work and actually fixes whenever there's a problem with our server, is the one who fixes it. Actually, I know DJ, you do some of that work yourself, but
I used to long ago and mildly support, but it's all about Cole and their team.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't think she's going to make it today, but just DJ and Kelly, you were around when Cole joined, I think. Would you like to give your recollections and how they got involved and became so integral to Aven?
Kelly, do you want to go first, or should I?
Go ahead.
So I actually remember. So I met Cole Christmas of 2005 or 6, because when they joined, they had trouble validating their email address, so they emailed me, and I manually approved them, and then I was sort of like done dealing with my family time, so we wound up chatting and became friends. And Cole and I just like chatted about ACE stuff for the next year or two, as they were figuring out their own identity. And then when they got into, I was doing all the technical backend stuff for the forum, and as they got more into software, I asked them if they wanted to help out and sort of roped them into at first supporting, and then as we had a position of tech admin, being tech admin, and they have been a really amazingly dedicated and capable person working behind the scenes, keeping software that this many people use, that is running on a shoestring budget, that is running on keeping software running for 20 years is no joke. And they've been keeping everything upgraded, managing our security. To give one example of where things are, we recently ran into a problem because our email stopped getting sent. And the reason that our email stopped getting sent is that we have a database of users that has been around for 20 years, which does not exist in most places on the internet. And so a bunch of the email addresses that exist that we send notifications to don't exist anymore because those email addresses are invalid. And so some of the email addresses were bouncing, and when the email addresses bounce, then eventually it raises flags and we can't send emails. So Cole had to figure out how to go through the entire list of all the email addresses in our forum and find the ones that were bouncing and turn them off so that the email could keep running. And that's just an example of how a piece of software, when it's around for this long and has impacted this many people's lives, like has a bunch of stuff you've got to deal with, that Cole has really been on top of. And so I'm hugely, hugely grateful. Really, really celebrating of them.
And there's a whole, as you can see, there's a whole thread here celebrating. And this was back in 2013, and so there's been another 10 years of work and keeping the forums going since then, nearly 10 years. I'd also like to mention the person who started this thread, Ithaca. They're a good friend of mine. They used to be a board member of Aven. They are Italian, now living in the UK, and they contributed so much to Aven over the years as well.
The email issue that caused us to be unable to send emails from Aven. That was one of the biggest things that Cole did solve for us. And it really has been amazing because they have been helping our software since I first joined Aven. And I sort of think of Coles as being the great person that can solve Aven software issues. I first, I suppose, got in touch with her very early after I joined, and finally got to meet her. I believe it was 2011, and I didn't realize how young Coles was, but Coles is very computer savvy, and since the very first time that I became an administrator, I think in 2006, they've really helped to keep the site running. There have been a number of times that we keep growing and growing and getting bigger, and it makes solving our issues sometimes more complex, especially the more recent email issue. So yes, I would have to say that we really do need to give a shout out to Coleslaw because they've done an awesome job since basically almost towards the beginning of Aven. So thank you so much, Cole. Ithaca, yes, they also are an enduring member. I don't know her that well. I met her only once at Pride in 2014 in Canada. And they were part of the board of directors. They're actually very active with many other things besides asexuality and besides Aven. It was great that they did spend so much time helping us out. And so I want to give a shout out to Ithaca as well. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, okay. No, I was no, I agree with all that, and I think it's yeah, two people who have been very central to making Aven what it's become. And yeah, and on that note, I mean, like I said, there are just too many people to mention them all. I mean, you're all remembered and all appreciated, but just another one I'd like to mention while I'm here is if you look at this is the page for the Aven Digest, and if you look at this, the Aven Digest has been going since 2009, and it's by this person called Cicero, who has been. It's just, to me, it's absolutely incredible. They've never actually had an official position on Aven. They've just been a member all this time, and have virtually every single week kept up with this, writing the digest. And this is a 2009 page, but all the way to. I mean, actually, I think they're still doing it, even though this page seems to stop in 2021. And yeah, I just wanted to shout them out because if you just to see what it is, it's the digest is like talks about what's happened over Aven over the last week, and this goes on our front page as well, just to take some random examples. And it's been really, I think, quite instrumental in keeping Aven relevant, keeping the front page ticking over, and engaging with the wider community. And so yeah, I find it hard to imagine keeping up something, even though, doing something that consistently for that amount of time. It's incredible. Okay, like I say, anybody else want to raise anything for conversation? Otherwise, DJ, I know you need to go soon. Is there any? I do have a few more threads I can share with people, but maybe some of them more to the directed at the other people here, but I was going to say, do you want to add anything? And also, Yasmin, do you want?
I had a question before DJ goes. I just wanted to ask: did you ever think, 20 years ago when you made this site, that people would still be actively talking about it and that you'd still be as involved? And I guess the same thing could also go for everyone else that's been on it, you know, for over like 10 years and ended up working for all this time. Like, was this kind of what you envisioned or not really?
I don't know. I mean, I envisioned, I wanted to live in a world where asexuality was known and understood, and where asexual people could find community with one another. Like when I was starting, it was like, this does not exist, and I've struggled a lot because it does not exist, and I really want to live in a world where it exists. So I don't know if I would say like 20 years from now, but I was definitely then thinking like I want the world to be different, and I want the world to be different in a way that is persistent. And so I think it's hugely gratifying to see how, you know, there's many ways that we still have work to do. There's a lot of visibility that still needs to exist in the community. There's a lot of ways that a lot of issues that we have in the community continue to work out. But I think many of the core things that I had been dreaming of 20 years ago feel like they've come to pass, and that has been really incredible.
Does it ever feel strange that, like, you know, I mean, you've pretty much spent like a good chunk of your life involved with the forums, and we just able to pull up a post from like 2006. Is it ever weird to have so much of your like thoughts and growth and stuff just like documented and to be like attached to something you made like in college, like for the next 20 years? Is it ever weird?
It's a little weird because, you know, I think I've clearly matured a lot since then. But I hope that other than events like this that are historical, no one's really noticing it. And I think it's important that we keep that history. That, you know, there aren't too many queer communities that have history, sort of a timeline of history all in one place the way that we do. And I think that's I remember there were a number of times when we were switching forum software and we were doing other things, and we were like, oh, our database is getting kind of bloated. It sure would be easier if we archived a bunch of the posts before, you know, 5 years ago or something. And we always fought to keep them up because we wanted to have that historical record, because we felt like there was that was important to be visible to the community. So it's really exciting to see how that comes back.
It is. I mean, technically, like, Aven like outlived MySpace. Like, this is how like the internet at the time Aven came to be is like completely different, and there's been like so many popular platforms that have not lived as long as the Aven forums have lived. And Aven and asexuality.org, like as a domain, is like kind of crazy to think that like there's like 20 years worth of history. Like, these will be like actual historical documents someday.
We predate Facebook and Twitter. And, you know, we may outlive Twitter. We'll see. We'll see.
But yeah, that was just my question before you had to go. But then I guess similarly, I could ask the same thing to like everyone else that's been on it since, like, when you volunteered to help out, did you envisage that when you said I'll help out, it would last this long in a good way?
And I may need to head off, but thanks to all of you. Mike, thanks especially to you for arranging this. And it's great to see everyone here.
Sure. Thank you for joining us, and see you soon.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Yasmin, so the question was, did you see the community lasting this long? I guess,
or more like your involvement with it lasting. I mean, when you were like, yeah, sure, I'll help out with the project team, or I'll help out with this. Did you see that being like almost decade-long experience?
Yeah, the short answer to that is no. I joined the project team, and this was like a 1-year thing at the time. It was you had 1 year, then you were re-elected, and I think it then changed to 2 years after that. And no, after 1 year, I was thinking about not running again, and I decided to run again. And then it's kind of like it sort of creeps up on you every time. It's like, oh no, I don't want to step down quite yet, and so it keeps on going. So no, I absolutely didn't imagine that I would still be involved 10 years into the future.
What about you two?
It doesn't feel like that long for me. Although, like, 7 years doesn't feel like a long time of involvement just based on my age, I think. Yeah, it's I guess like being fairly settled in a lot of other areas of life, it just seems like this has become part of my normal life. It doesn't seem like I wouldn't be around this long. And I was only on project team for just over 2 years, so I didn't stick to that. Definitely not as long as Mick has. But yeah, like I guess it just seems natural to me that this has like sustained as an online social environment, so it doesn't really feel that weird.
I suppose I really didn't expect to have Aven as the main forum that I was involved with at the start. I mean, I did find a group of people that I could really relate to, but I was also involved with many other things at the same time. And actually, for a while there, I was more involved with another forum than Aven. But it did kind of grow on me. I really didn't really think that here in 2022, when I'd be literally an old lady, still being involved with this small group of like-minded people. But there's something about it that I really like, especially the members. And I was originally invited to become part of the team. There was a very difficult election for new moderators at the time, and I really didn't expect to win, but I did, and not long after that, we needed some new administrators. I really doubted that I'd be able to become a new administrator, but I was elected with 100%. And it's a small group. I thought, okay, I've administrated other groups before. I'll do this for a short time. But now here it is in 2022, and I'm still here. I'm still really enjoying Aven, even though it has gotten a lot bigger. And I really don't see myself going away from it until I think maybe till I reach 70, and then maybe not. But yeah, I've been involved for a lot longer than I expected. But it's because I like it so much, I don't want it to end.
And you just reminded me that I actually ran for mod myself once. It's something I forget about. I ran before the project team. I ran for mod, and I had a huge lead in the election. And then Tanwin had this amazing comeback, and Tanwin won the election. And I'm very glad she did, because I don't think moderating would have suited my style in the end. I admire those who do it day in, day out, but I think the project team is a better role for me. And to answer I think, Gasman, just a more general question as to what is it surprising Aven's role has changed? I mean, I think Aven's role has evolved in that the community was much more centralized on Aven back in the day. So 2011 was also the time when the flag was chosen, I think. And, the people who did that, Stand Up and Bristrek, also known as Nef Dugan, were from Aven, and they also reached out to other communities to get their input on the flag, but it was really mostly Aven, I think, because there were other communities, but they were kind of smaller and short-lived. Whereas now there are many other ACE communities all over the world, and I think that's changed. And so our role in the community has changed, but that's a good thing as well, because we're not here to be the asexuality side. We're here to be a important member of the community, as an organization, and hopefully we can continue staying relevant.
It's so funny to think of how these things spread, how someone on the forums came up with a flag in 2011, you said, and then I remember seeing an ACE flag for the first time at my local Pride, and I guess it must have been around that time. I think I was finishing secondary school, so I think I was about 16 when I saw it, and how it just ended up going from the forums, scattering all over the world, and then becoming something that we all recognize everywhere.
It's just below my camera, but my t-shirt has on it, I got it from a an Etsy shop like Settled Pride. You can hardly see it. It's basically like the shop just makes things with pride colors that don't like outright say what it's for. So people who might not feel like, you know, they want to have a specific, no, go away. Sorry, my dog is jumping on me. They might not want to like, you know, shout out like asexual or any other, you know, like gender or sexual minority identity, can still wear their colors. And these are the ace and arrow colors. So there's green on that end and then purple on the other end, and they're just dancing skeletons. So yeah.
Yeah,
Having colors is very, yeah, the colors of the flag have definitely had a huge impact.
Since we came onto the flag, it wasn't something I'd prepared for, but just I thought I'd pull up this blog post on the asexual agenda from 2018. This is this gives a really nice account of the how the flag started and a bit of the history there. And I was also worried that might have got the date wrong. It says here the asexual flag was first suggested in May 2009, as far as I know, and the poll looks like that was in December 2009. So it was slightly before. Oh yes, then July of 2010. So I think it was slightly before I said. It must have been 2010, not 2009. And if you scroll down, there's also a link here to a video by Neff Dugan from World Pride 2012, and this talk they gave a talk about how the flag came into being there. So yeah, I definitely encourage anybody who wants to know that history to check that out.
That's so cool. Do we know like who was there like a specific individual who thought of it, or was it kind of like a group?
So
Well,
I mean,
we had a poll actually in Aven. A lot of members gave various different potential flags for asexuality, and then we had a poll, and the one that the flag that we're using now is the one that won.
Is that member who made it still around? I feel like they should get credit for creating such an iconic flag.
Well, I'll need to check on that. But the colors of the flag actually make sense. Perhaps that's why it won.
But I noticed the other things also sort of had purple in it. Was purple pre-existing the flag, or?
Yes, purple representing the LGBTQ community definitely did predate it. It was added to.
Oh, we've got a freeze.
Yeah, I could fill in there. Yeah, the purple was the skin of the forums, so the actual background of the forums were purple, and that was something I think Cole Slaw originated early. And I remember it was kind of like when there were times when for some reason the purple had to be replaced because there was a tech update or something, just temporarily, and people in the forums would go into panic because like this purple is like part of their home, it's part of their identity, and like not having the purple there was like really really caused a lot of problems.
Is there like a symbolic meaning to purple, or is it just kind of random? I mean, I love the choice of purple. That's a cool color. But I just wonder if there was like a meaning for the purple.
Well, I mean, I know it's supposed to mean community, but if you actually mean like the ace community, but if you mean like why purple, how does that relate to the color purple? Then that's a really good question. I don't have an answer to that. Does anybody else?
It represents the LGBTQ plus community, and was added just because. Well, I didn't create the flag, but I believe the reason why the person that did design the flag and that we did vote for was saying that we can be part of that community. So basically that's it. The three top colors of black, gray, and white represent the spectrum, and purple represents the community.
Yeah,
and purple's been a part of meaning community for quite many years before that.
And to answer your other question, Yasmin, yes, so at least one of the people who were behind the creation of the flag is the person who's featured in this video here at World Pride 2012. we can add a link to this in the description afterwards. But it's that they were called Bristrek or Nef Dugan, and the other person was called Stand Up. And I think Stand Up was the one who actually did design the flag, but these two people together kind of put together the vote and all the choices and sort of coordinated everything, which was a really huge undertaking, given that even though this community was more centralized on Aven back then, they kind of did want to make it a sort of worldwide ACE vote somehow. So they went to every single ACE site they could find everywhere and tried to somehow add all the votes together. And so, yeah, it was obviously a huge moment in the community.
Well, I think it was a great choice. I feel like it's the cutest flag, in my opinion. Love the color scheme.
Yeah, and if you look at that video, you can see that the other choices were kind of much more complicated somehow, and it was one of the simplest designs, and but I think it was very effective for that reason. It was kind of easier to make, you can just sew like you can sew it, you can like paint it on you easily. It's not and it's easy to remember.
Well, I guess we only have like 8 minutes left. Did you have a final question?
I have some other threads I could share, but actually, Snow, you said you had some. Did you want to share some of your memes?
Yeah, I
so,
could.
this would be a good time for it.
Yeah, like if people want to see them for sure. So the Aven specific meme thread is something that I just kind of randomly started about 4 years ago, and then it kind of went dead for a while, and a year after that it was reignited and has been thriving ever since. Members,
do you want to, sorry to interrupt. Do you want to share a screen for it, or do you want me to share it for you?
I can share it. Yeah, because I also have memes that are saved onto my computer that I have ready to share as well, so I can do a screen share.
Yes.
In just a second here. Okay, let me just open up this thread. So, share screen. And I only have one monitor here, so it's going to be a little weird. So I'll just do I'll do entire screen. Okay. So go into the Aven specific meme thread here. Memes, they're the modern currency of fleeting internet popularity. Anyway, this is the first thread. I started it on March 1st, 2018. And the first one was
sorry, I'm not sure. Here we go. Is this what we want? Oh no, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I can't see the thing at the moment. Just wondering if I'm to add this to the stream. Is that the one?
Let me just see here. Yeah, sorry, this is okay. I'll stop sharing and I'll try a different way. Okay, I'll share screen. I'll do just a specific Chrome tab. Maybe that will. Does that work?
I add this to the stream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's working for people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so the first one was just a meme about shit posting in Hotbox. It's just how I am inclined to participate in discussions, and people just kind of joined with different things. This one is about goats. Blue goats are the best. And you post an unpopular idea, and so this is one of the most popular ones. As you can see, it's outlined in green. If asexual means not sexual, does that mean awesome means not weesome? That's part of like a theme that has shown up a lot in the meme thread, that if a word starts with A, can you turn it into meaning not whatever the rest of the word says? Other stuff here, like proper greetings, send a cake. Yeah, audiences, stuff like that. So this thread goes on for 21 pages. I want to show maybe a few individual memes. I'll just change. I'll stop screen and I'll share something else instead here. Share screen. Okay, so I'll do the entire screen and go from image to image. Okay, let's start with this one. Okay, so can people see the screen here?
Oh, almost. There we go.
Okay, so how I make these memes is I just go to the image flip website and like search for random templates or whatever, and then just see if I'm inspired to make a meme. So this is, you can see the asexuality element in this, when the early signs were there, but you didn't notice them until finding Aven. Pretty obvious for that guy. And here's another one that I kind of made myself, and that I just took this flag thing, the snake flag, I forget what it's called, Gadwin or something, and just turned the color of the snake into the ace flag and put "Don't hit on me." So yeah, that's a fun one. Aven discussion topics, asexuality, memes, poop, and casino loving. So that's a lot of JFF. Casino it's a lot of stuff that is self-referential to Aven itself, and some of them are about asexuality as a whole.
What is casino loving?
So there was a thread that somebody put, I think it was in Musings and Rantings, that just was how casino we are loving, and the loving still had the E in it. It did not make any sense, and people just laughed at it so much, and it just turned into this massive shit posting spree, and it was so much fun. And that was a very popular thread for a while, and it still gets bumped up from time to time. So yeah, doctor, you sexually active? Ace, no, I'm asexual. Do you need any medication? No, I'm asexual. Are you experiencing any other symptoms of depression? It's not depression, I'm asexual. Doctor? No idea. This one sums up me pretty well. The hierarchy of needs with Aven memes at the top. Sex educator, we're all naturally sexual beings, aces, the monkey puppet. When you purposely try to make yourself unappealing to somebody flirting with you, task failed successfully. 6 critical questions to think about when someone asks if they're asexual. Who are they sexually attracted to? What do they desire with a partner in an intimate setting? Where are the washrooms? Sorry, but I can't concentrate when I'm holding it in. When was the last time they felt attraction? Why have they not read the terms of service that state we can't tell them their orientation? And how casino they are loving. So a very common Aven meme trope is making something out of OYCDYO, only you can determine your orientation, because of the invalidation rule in Aven and how people can't tell anyone who's, who they're, whether they're asexual or not. So that's often played on. And I want to add something very important that some people requested I talk about in this. There's a lot of ongoing jokes that just last forever in the meme thread, and this is one of the ones that goes back the farthest, back to 2019. I was just randomly browsing meme templates and came across this one of this guy in a hand knit sweater standing in front of Stonehenge, and so I just made this meme. And someone quotes your post just to add this, and it became such a standard, an ongoing joke that sometimes people just quote your post and post this image of this guy, not with the text, but we made it into a bunch of other memes. Is this an agreement? When someone makes a good point, why this? And then just other pop cultural things, lyrics from This Is the End. Anyway, so that's as far as I was able to dig into the meme archive I have. That I thought would be fun to look at. So there are literally tens of thousands more in the Aven specific meme thread. So I encourage everybody to go there, and it can take up hours of your life just to look at these hilarious memes. So anyway.
Bless that man on his holiday at Stonehenge in his Stonehenge shirt. Has no idea.
After that, after liking that meme, people were really amused by it. So somebody looked up who that was, and his name is Sam Barsky. He lives around Baltimore in the US, and he just loves knitting sweaters. So when he plans to go a place, he knits landmarks there that he wants to pose in front of. So he's done that not only in Stonehenge, but like the Eiffel Tower, the Great Wall of China. Like it's just his thing, and it seems like the most pure, like, use of your time is, you know, crafting something because you are passionate about like seeing the world. So yeah, it went from just like a throwaway joke to something that, you know, the whole meme thread loves.
And it really enhances your holiday pictures to have it on your shirt before you even get to the landmark. So
And yeah, yeah, that's all. That's all very Aven, and I thought I'd share another thread that I think sort of is very quintessential Aven, and that's this one: incredibly ace moments. It's started all the way back in 2008, and you can see it's still going. 906 pages later, and so if those of you who don't know, an incredibly ace moment is well, I think the person explains it best. Who starts it? You hear, but do you listen? Remember all those double entendres that went over your head? How about a sex joke a friend told at a party that had to be explained to you? That dull, irritating sex scene in an otherwise good movie that all your friends said was hot. Discuss your most ace of asexual moments in this thread. And yeah, this has been a sort of stalwart of Aven since for over 10 years, 14 years even, 13 and a half. Don't know if anybody here has any incredibly ace moment they want to share.
I mean, is it ace to have not even noticed that Wolverine was running around with his shirt off? Like if someone was to say, what is he wearing in those suits, I would be like, jeans with volumized hair. Didn't even a belt.
I mean, you'd think he would have a hairier chest anyway, but you know,
it's Hollywood.
Maybe it's very asexual to like be pedantic about little things like that.
Well, sometimes I listen to lyrics from rock music, popular songs, and they're about something sexual, and it'll just completely go over my head. You know, it might be, several decades before somebody explains what they're singing about. And I'll think, I have no idea.
I'm like that with songs about like drugs. But I'm like, that was a drug song? I thought they were just talking about multicolored sunsets and stuff. I don't realize that was meant to be psychedelic.
Yeah.
Did you have any, Michael?
I remember just what one is that it took me a long time before I knew what the word oral sex meant. For a long time, I thought when people said the word oral sex, I thought it was like sort of sexy talk over a telephone or something. And then somebody told me what it was, and I was like, "Oh, really?"
I mean, it's not a bad interpretation considering at school, every time we had to do a presentation, they'd say we have to do an oral in class. Yeah, exactly. And we'd all be like, okay. They just current oral, so very verbal.
Anybody else have one they want to share?
I think that lacking so many incredibly ace moments for the early part of my life is part of what delayed discovering that about myself. But I guess looking back, there are the fact that it was always like a joke to me, and it was just so underwhelming otherwise whenever like, sexual topics would come up, and jokes were always just funny and not at all, I didn't really feel it in the same level as other people. Just finding things like porn to be hilarious. I mean, a lot of people feel that way though, and just feeling completely detached from things and not understanding like, how is this so like important, so intimate, so private when it's just like a body part. I don't know. It wasn't quite as obvious for me for a long time.
Fair enough. We're all different.
Yeah. And that's part of what's great about Aven is like people can share their experiences and you never feel bad. Like when I see new people come who are like, I'm in my 30s or 40s, I never knew this. Like I, was never aware that I was different, or who talk about, who worry about their past experiences might make them not welcome in the community. Like, it's so diverse that you can nip that in the bud right away and say there are like dozens of people here who have expressed the same thing that you are expressing now. And yeah, it doesn't negate the validity of your feelings, and you can always find a place to belong, even if, no matter what your past experiences are.
And I think this actually relates to, you also mentioned the invalidation rule, and it kind of feeds into that. And I want to highlight this thread, which has also been really fundamental to Aven. And this is the what is asexual elitism and why does Aven discourage it? And this is back in 2010. This is, I mean, the rule existed before then. It's just this was maybe the clearest and what maybe the earliest explanation of it. And this was by somebody called Nancy, who was an Aven mod at the time. And her husband was also her husband Keith, who they met on Aven, and they married on a live stream that I think Avenites watched in 2008.
I was there. I was there.
You were there in person, were you? Yeah. And her husband Keith was an admin on Aven and also ran the media team, and they were both of these people were very influential to me, even though I didn't overlap with them very much. They left the team, the moderation team, a few months after I joined the project team, but even in that small time, they were the ones who really instilled to me like how policy works and how to be really systematic about things. And this was maybe an early but very, very influential discussion about how we want Aven to be a tolerant forum, in the sense that you don't have the right to tell anybody that they're asexual, and it's not about behavior, it's about who you're attracted to. Or I mean, there are variations on the definition, and we respect there are different variations. That's fine. Some people prefer sexual desire, like asexuality is lack of sexual desire and or attraction. But it's not about behavior. It's not about if you have this amount of sex, then you're not asexual. And it's a very, very important thread in Aven history.
It is, and 10 years later, we still have to have the invalid sit people down for the invalidation talk. But yeah. I feel like progress happens slowly.
Oh, and since we're coming to the end, there's just one last thread I want to share, and that was this. This again, it's a very early thread, SQUISH. And I think it's
still
really
don't
cool
understand this concept sometimes. This still confuses me sometimes when people say, "Do you have a squish?" And I'm like, I don't know what we're doing.
So this actually apparently, I mean, I don't know if this was the very first time, but as far as I know, this originated on Aven right here, the concept of a squish. So, I mean, they've explained it. I mean, I think I can't do better than their explanation. Raisin, who I finally have a name for it. I've been trying to describe for a long, long time how to describe the crushes I get on people. It was getting frustrating having to say I got crushes on people, but they weren't really crushes because blah, 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 blah. So then they say, I finally decided to pick a word, and I'm calling it squishes. A crush is when you find a person attractive and you have some desire to date them. Then they read the word smash. I don't think I've heard that, but a smash was used to describe an overwhelming feeling of lust for another person. And then they go on here to say, well, when they got crushes, didn't actually want to date them. There was just something about them I liked. I wanted to get to know them better. I wanted to talk to them, to be around them. And then they say here, I decided to use the word squish to describe these feelings because they aren't as intense as crushes or smashes. I just have a desire to talk to the person and be friends with them. And yeah, that name has stuck all this time.
So it's like a platonic crush, I guess.
Yeah,
I think so. So I thought that was quite cool.
I think did Aven also play a role in like the coining of the term for like queer platonic partner too? I know that's more of an aromantic thing, but like that there's obviously so much overlap and so much development of aromantic identity, like, coincides with an Aven and, originated from there even sometimes.
Good question. I can't remember the answer to that. I think it might have been outside Aven, but I'm not absolutely sure. Where the term queer platonic originated?
Oh, well, it originated in hundreds or possibly thousands of years ago.
The term
terminology?
Well, the term, I mean, the type of relationship is obviously timeless, I think, but the term for that people use, queer platonic, was that coined in an Aven or Aven adjacent environment, like.
That specific term. No, I don't know when that originated.
Somebody out there
I mean,
does.
I mean, it's not. Yes, I mean, I think the concept goes way back. It's close to that. There was a concept called Boston marriages, which I think was mostly between two women, and of course, queer platonic can be between any people of any gender identity. But I think it's a similar concept, and the term queer platonic, I honestly can't remember. Awesome. Well, we are about time to just about wrap up. I should mention that I put a link to an Airmeet session at the bottom. If you want, and anybody else who's around, panelists here, if you want to hang out on Airmeet, then feel free to click on the link beneath the YouTube video. I think you need to register. You need to put in an email or something to get on. But yeah, I will hang out there for a while. Before we wrap up, does anybody else have any last words they want to add or anything else they'd like to bring up?
I just here's to another 20 years.
Keep on memeing. That's what I have to say.
Yep, keep up the great work, everybody. And it goes to everybody who has contributed to Aven, including the people we have not mentioned today. I'm sorry, you're still valued. It's just we can't cover everybody, but that doesn't mean that you're not appreciated. So yeah, keep on being ace.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody
everybody.
who joined Aven.
Thank you. And yeah, like I say, if you want to continue, then I will be hanging out in the Airmeet thing that's linked in the in the description beneath the video. So yeah, see some of you there. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.